Have you considered retiring early? It may be tempting, but before you make any big decisions, you have to carefully consider your financial situation. Now, me personally, this is something that I'm planning to do is retiring early, not staying to that full retirement age of 67 years old. I feel like no one should work that long, but it is possible to retire at the age of 55, which we're planning to do, but you must not be dependent on Social Security. So in today's video, I'm going to show you what happens to Social Security when you do retire early, exactly how to kind of bridge the benefits, because there are going to be a couple things that you're going to have to know. Now, when it comes to Social Security, you can start collecting benefits at 62, but it is going to be a reduced amount. And even then, if you stop contributing to Social Security at 55, chances are 20 to 30% of those benefits are going to be gone, because what they estimate is you working until the full age of 62, meaning you're making contributions. If I retire at 55 and my income essentially goes to zero because I'm no longer working, I have 7 years that I will not be contributing to Social Security, resulting in lower benefits. Now, typically people wait to 59 and a half. And the reason for this is you can make withdrawals from those 401k plans and retirement plans when you're not at age of retirement, which again is 67 in the United States. Now, if you do have a 401k plan, you might be able to withdraw a little bit early. Sometimes there's penalty, but if you leave their job at age 55 and up, there's a rule of 55 that you can get into. Now, can I collect Social Security at 55? That is a question. The retirement age, you will not be eligible for Social Security unless you do have special conditions, which we're not going to get into. But if you start taking money out of those IRA plans under 59 and a half, there is going to be not only paying taxes on that, but you will also see an additional 10% early penalty that you're going to have out of there. So when you think of Social Security, it is not really the only thing that you have to worry about. Social Security, if you're drawing at age 62, that is typically the minimum age for benefits. However, now when I think again, retiring at 55, Medicare does not kick until 65. So not only am I going to have 7 years that I'm going to have to make up the difference between a wage till I am able to get at least my base Social Security, I am also going to have to make up 10 years where I have to cover the cost of medical expenses, which can be kind of crazy without having a really highly fully funded HSA account or some other vehicle that is going to cover these medical expenses. Now, when we look at our 401ks, 59 and a half, when you think of individual retirement accounts or IRAs, 59 and a half is the exact same. So although you have to begin and you can start receiving Social Security at 62, for a lot of people, it isn't the best reason. And it is because the Social Security Administration will reduce your check up to 30% if you start taking it before the full retirement age, but it can also be can be reduced even greater than that 30% because of the 7 years of contributions that you're no longer making. So when we start thinking of Social Security, I want to run an estimator for you and show you kind of exactly what this looks like using the actual figures that we see here. So let me bring this up and let's take a look. So estimating your Social Security. So I put in my date of birth, which that's not my real date of birth, but there's my date of birth. So 1/1/79, desired age to begin taking Social Security. The earliest that I can take benefits as 62, annual income 100K, expected salary increase 4%. Now, again, this is under the assumption that 55 to 62, I am still going to be making $100,000 a year, 4% annual increase to salary roughly. And then, of course, based on those 7 years that I'm not going to be making Social Security contributions, I might not cap out Social Security in its entirety when it comes to retirement. So then we look at our benefits. This is where it gets interesting on how much Social Security really does not cover. So benefits at the expected age, taking the benefits at 62 is going to yield me $2,465 a month. Now, this does not include what you have to pay in taxes. This also does not include what you have to pay in Medicare or medical costs at that point. So you can see having $2,500 a month is very hard to live on. I think, and I see that number on a monthly basis, making $29,000 annually. When I think of even mortgages in our area running around $3,000, when I think of rent in my area, so literally just one bedroom apartment, about $1,200 a month, you're talking 50% of your monthly income is going to be tied up already just because of housing and thinking of the needs and the wants. If you have a vehicle in there, if you don't have any additional savings plans, if you don't have those 401ks, those IRA funds, Social Security is estimated to replace roughly 40% of your income. And then at full retirement age, you're supposed to be spending roughly 80% of your income. So again, theoretically, on that $100,000 mark, if we're getting 30K from this annually, this is replacing 30% of my income. But again, during retirement years, you're looking to only replace 80% of your income, which means I'm still falling $50,000 short a year to hit the 80% of my full income, which is kind of crazy. Now, if I do wait till 67, so waiting to retire 5 more years, you can see my benefits go up about what, $1,200. That means we're getting 44 annually, and that is going to be for the rest of your life. Now you'll see that benefits and the estimation and the max benefit, if I wait till 70, I'm getting 4,661. Now the question is, or what a lot of people say is, if you're taking your Social Security funds at 62 and looking at the difference between that. So if I take Social Security at 62, don't need the money to live on because I have other means, taking that $2,500 a month and investing it into an account to allow it to grow, because again, we don't need the Social Security funds, but we're not working. There's no reason to really delay taking Social Security because of the growth factor that we have from investing the funds. Now, when we start looking at the break-even point, this is another one that is important. So if you look, so if we take Social Security right here at 62, or if we take it at 67, the break-even point is 77.2 years. So as long as I live past the age of 77, it would have essentially, that is the break-even point when both of these meet for the benefit. So if I live past 77, you can see waiting, essentially waiting till 67 is going to have a greater impact, but that is the point. 77.2 is the age at which the total number of dollars received if you're retired at 67 exceeds 62. So think about that for a minute. So if I'm getting money at 62, I'm going to meet that point at 77. But if I do it at 67, it's going to be 10 years at 77, shorter runway, but those are 5 years that I'm not getting the benefits. Now, of course, like I said, if you live long past 77, 80, 90, 100 years old, of course, it would have been a lot more beneficial to wait till 67. But of course, that would give me the 5 years of growth that I would not get out of there if I did wait to take the money. And I know it's really a personal decision on what people choose to do when it comes to taking Social Security at an earlier age. So how do you really bridge that gap? Again, if you want to retire at 55 like I do, how can you do this? And how can you do this mathematically, logically? How am I going to do it? So if I retire at the age of 55, we have really a couple different scenarios. In many cases, 10% early withdrawal if I'm taking money out of 401ks before that 59 and a half. The penalty also for the IRAs, meaning that if I quit my job the year after or when I turn 55, I will have the ability to essentially have no income. At that point, this is where I have individual investment accounts, brokerage accounts that are outside of the 401ks, that are outside of the IRS, or excuse me, the IRA accounts. It is in taxable brokerage accounts. And at this point, because we're doing kind of the switch from coming from income, W-2 income into capital gains that we're seeing on investment accounts, is getting the investment accounts to a point where when we get dividend income, it can support and really cover a majority of the expenses until we hit the age 62, where we can start drawing Social Security to replenish a lot of those funds during that time. Now, of course, when you think of the early IRA withdrawal rules, there's a couple: totally disabled, permanently disabled, education expenses, buying a first-time house. There are a few different ways to get into it. But when we start looking at pension plans, most of them you cannot draw at 55, which unfortunately, I do not have a pension plan. This is where the non-retirement accounts come in. When we think of high yield savings accounts, when we look at stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, investment vehicles, these are the dividend stocks and the dividend funds that I'm going to have to bridge the gap between 55 and also 62. Now, in addition, a lot of people that I've seen also bridge it using their home as equity. So literally, if you have a home equity line of credit, which I do not advise it whatsoever, reason being, home equity line of credits, or really borrowing against your home, in my opinion, turns it into an asset. But if you did have one by chance, you could float a couple years with the interest that you're getting in there with the regular bills. Now, of course, to make this happen, there is one pivotal thing that needs to happen by the age of 55. And that is right back here, guys. That is the debt-free journey. So if I hit the age of 55, We have newer vehicles, not going to have to worry about that. We're going to pay them off in full. At the age of 50, I plan to pay off my mortgage in its entirety, meaning at the age of 50, if we're working until 55, but at the age of 50, we will be 100% debt free. We will have nothing, meaning we have 5 years to bulk up and really put an incredible amount of money into those individual brokerage accounts. That way we can stockpile money essentially between a lot of different factors, giving us dividend income that we don't have to touch the nest egg. Like Dave Ramsey says, don't touch the golden goose, just take all the eggs that it produces. That way we don't have to touch the balances that we have in those accounts. And we can essentially live off that because our cost of living will be very, very low. Even adding up regular expenses, even kind of the daily or month-to-month expenses, if we eliminate the mortgage in the entirety, we're at about $2,000, I would say roughly about $2,000. And that mainly is the cost just of maintenance. So when you think of electricity, you think of, the internet, cable, things of that nature. And then of course the cost of food, that is where a lot of those funds come in. So running about probably $2,500 at a very bare minimum. But even if we do something, and again, having a house paid off that's worth, as it sits right now, around $500,000 to $600,000, we do have a lot of equity if, heaven forbid, something does happen. But retiring early at the age of 55 will have a big impact on Social Security. And knowing exactly what it looks like and how you plan this out does make a really big difference. So, all right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the early retirement at 55 and, of course, the impact that Social Security has. And I'll catch you in the next video.